welcome to my latest vlog. So I just wanted to come on. I was featured recently on Flying Changes page, and they are another riding confidence coach. However, we were chatting about perceived trauma, and I've had a lot of messages since, so I just wanted to come on and do a little vlog and just share some bits with you that might answer some of the messages that I've had through. So the reason we were chatting about perceived trauma is a lot of the time when I work with clients, when I chat with people, even just at shows and events, and I say that I am a rider confidence coach and I specialise in victims of trauma. The first thing that I think of is people who have had really horrific accidents. Now, don't get me wrong, I work with a lot of people that have really horrific accidents. But trauma is not always a horrific accident. Trauma can be something that you deem relatively small. It doesn't have to be those huge accidents. It can be that somebody's witnessed somebody have a minor fall, and that's caused a trauma within their subconscious. It can be that it is your child who has literally slipped off the side of their pony going over the tiniest pole, but that's caused a trauma in their subconscious. And all that happens is your subconscious stores that memory until a time where it's ready to deal with it. And that time isn't always the most convenient time. So I had a riding accident 7 years ago, which is how I ended up on the path that I have been on to end up here. And actually my trauma as such didn't come through till several years later. So although I'd had a horrific life-changing accident, although I'd faced potentially being paralysed, although I had had to work through several operations and all of these physical things, I still got back on a horse within weeks of being told I potentially had the all clear. I still moved yards in a wheelchair. I led my horse around by a wheelchair. None of that stuff really fazed me. It was 3 years later where my subconscious suddenly went, I am ready to deal with this now, and everything's going to come out, everything's going to open up, and now we're going to deal with all of the stuff that happened. And I was not prepared for that. I wasn't ready for that. But it was the time when my subconscious decided it was the right time. And the only trigger it took was driving to a friend's past where I had my accident. That I'd driven there loads. But it just takes that one time. And so trauma is not always a huge physical trauma. It can be something really small. And a lot with our children, we forget how small a trauma can impact on them. So quite often, if our children have a small fall, we assume they bounce because kids bounce. If you're out on a hack with your friend and your friend falls off, the first thing we normally do is go over and say, are you okay? You know, we worry that they've hurt themselves. Are you sure you're okay? Are you sure you don't need to get checked over? Are you sure you're all right to get back on? All of those sorts of things. However, quite often when our children fall off, we assume they bounce and we tell them to get straight back on. We don't show that same level of worry or concern, certainly not to their faces, unless we actually think they're seriously hurt. But what about the mental trauma? What about when we're telling them to get back on that pony that's just thrown them off, or they've just fallen off? How's that affected them mentally and emotionally while we're going, just get back on, it's fine? It's not always fine for them. And it's not always a fall that causes the trauma. So I am speaking with a lot of people at the moment who have had a huge emotional trauma by coronavirus. Now we know that this has impacted on so many aspects of our lives. You know, lockdown has caused trauma on so many areas of our lives. But there are a lot of people who are genuinely worried about getting back to riding because they don't want to get hurt, they don't want to go to hospital. What if they fall off? What if? And they're what ifs that they wouldn't even have worried about before. We went up to go and ride our horses, so we haven't been with our horses we weren't with them for the first 3 weeks of lockdown, and we've been with them since then. But we hadn't been riding because of the pressure on the NHS. I didn't want to encourage my daughter to ride. She's only fallen off a pony once, and it was a tiny fall. and it was her own fault, and she did literally just slide off his neck, and he stood there and looked at her and then ran back to me because she thought she was in trouble. But we've gone back to riding. So last week we went up, tacked up a pony. I'd lunged her pony a couple of times before, and she melted. She would not get on, she would not ride. It took a little while for me to get it out of her, but she was scared of going to hospital and catching coronavirus. And she, this isn't something we've really bandied about at her, it's just something that she has picked up and decided in her mind, anybody who goes into hospital has coronavirus. And that has caused her a real emotional trauma. So we are literally going right back to the drawing board. I mean, thankfully, since then, her pony's been a little monkey because it's obviously had quite a lot of time off. So we're using this time to bring her pony back into it properly. And she's doing a lot of groundwork, getting that trust, getting that bond back. She has said, fingers crossed, over the next few days, she's going to sit on the pony. And she has sat on it bareback a few times, but I think that's different to riding and having tack and everything else on. So just think about how trauma's impacted, and that actually when people are worried or concerned about riding, or not even riding, other aspects of their life, it can be the tiniest thing. It can be something that you would deem quite irrelevant but has caused trauma on them. So I have also worked with several children whose parents have had a fall, who actually they weren't even there. Sometimes the parents' fall wasn't even that bad. It's literally been a couple of bruises, but it's enough to make that realisation of, people do fall off and they do get hurt. It's all about what the perceived trauma is to that person. So actually, I could fall off, and I have fallen off since my accident several times, and I bounced. And the perceived trauma to me wasn't that huge. I was like, I didn't break this time, that's fine, and got back on. But the perceived trauma to those who were watching me was totally different. So my husband and two of my children were there. One of my children didn't bat an eyelid. I'm not really sure what that means, how that sounds. But the other one, who had just started coming back up to the horses, doing some groundwork with them after my accident, found it really distressing at the fact that I'd fallen off, even though I literally fell, bounced, got back up again. He found that quite distressing, and again, my husband found it quite hard, the fact that I'd fallen and was I okay. And it's the perceived trauma. The perceived trauma to them was much bigger than the trauma to me. The trauma to my son was greatest of all, and he hasn't ridden more. He's ridden twice in 7 years since I had my accident. So it's all about perceived trauma. So just wanted to come on and do a short vlog and just say it's not always a horrific accident. It's not always to that person. There are so many reasons why people's ridden and groundwork confidence just dives and bombs, and there are so many ways to work through it. But please don't ever brush it off. Please don't think it's minor and it's silly, and go find someone to talk to. Even if it's not a rider confidence coach, go and find somebody you can talk through this with and come up with a plan to get you out to the other side. So I'm going to be coming on and sharing some little mini vlogs as to how I'm working through this with my little girl. So we've already taken some steps. So we started about 3 days before recording this. So I'm making a little diary of how it's going, what it is that we're doing, and I'm going to be coming on and giving you some little vlogs and some updates and sharing, not only as a rider confidence coach, but as a mum who finds it massively frustrating when I tack the pony up, spend all that time tacking the pony up, making sure she's clean, lunging her for my daughter to go, don't want to get on. Or what she will do, which is she will get on, do a couple around the whirls, walk her out of the gate back into the yard and get off, like 5 minutes. Which is really tough when it's your kid and you're trying to do that with them. So I know there are a lot of parents going through this at the moment. I know there are a lot of children who are getting back into riding whose confidence has maybe gone a little bit, who are either quite nervous of going back, or whose parents can be quite nervous of going back as well, and they pick up on our energies, and the ponies pick up on our energies as well if we're nervous about our children going back to riding. So I'm going to be coming on and sharing from a rider coach point of view, and also from a mum point of view, the different steps that we're taking and doing it at her pace and how it's going. So if you've got any questions on trauma, if you've got any questions on how to move forward in your riding, please drop me a message, comment below. I would love to hear from you. And until my next update on how everything's going, I hope you all stay safe, that you are all taking care, and we will all be out back at competitions soon, because that is the one thing we're missing. We had, for the first year ever, several booked in that we were both going to do, fingers crossed, and they've all been cancelled. There's one potentially still available towards the end of the year, so fingers crossed we will all be back out at events, and I will be able to catch up with some of you face to face at different shows and events soon too. But I'll be sharing our next update and letting you know exactly how it is that we're getting on, and I'm also going to be sharing some updates on bringing one of my ponies back into work, who is the cheekiest little monkey and has been out of work for a little while. So I'm also going to be doing some updates on how it's going, bringing him back into work, and just keeping you all updated on general life with our nags. So take care, I will catch up with you all soon, and if you've got any questions, drop them into the comments or drop me a message.